Hi friends! So if you are watching this video, that means that you either watched all the chapters of Stuart Little up to now, or you wanted to just dive right in where we left off. So thank you for joining me as promised. And the last video I think that I made, I said that I'd be doing it from my house. So this is coming to you from my guest bedroom. It's actually one of my favorite places in my house to read in, because we decorated it to look like Maine, which is one of our favorite places to go on vacation. And I even have a little loon pillow behind me. So when you are reading from home, I encourage you guys to find a spot where you feel really happy and cozy. So for me, today it happens to be this spot. So stay tuned and we will start reading. So if you are just tuning into this video and you haven't watched any of the other chapters that I've read for you guys, I wanted to give you a brief summary. Up till this point, we've learned that Stuart is a mouse-like boy. It's not entirely clear whether or not he's a boy who looks like a mouse or whether they just have a mouse in the family. He doesn't get along with the cat. The cat played a trick on him and got him stuck inside of the blinds of the window, and he's just freed himself. So this next chapter is chapter 6, called A Fair Breeze. One morning, when the wind was from the west, Stuart put on his sailor suit and his sailor hat, took his spyglass down from the shelf, and set out for a walk full of the joy of life and the fear of dogs. With a rolling gait, he sauntered along toward Fifth Avenue, keeping a sharp lookout. Whenever he spied a dog through his glass, Stuart would hurry to the nearest doorman, climb his trouser leg, and hide in the tails of his uniform. And once, when no doorman was handy, he had to crawl into a yesterday's paper and roll himself up in the second section till danger was past. At the corner of Fifth Avenue, there were several people waiting for the uptown bus, and Stuart joined them. Nobody noticed him because he wasn't tall enough to be noticed. "Live and learn," muttered Stuart tartly, putting his change purse back in his pocket. When the bus stopped at 72nd Street, Stuart jumped out and hurried across to the sailboat pond in Central Park. Over the pond, the west wind blew, and into the teeth of the west wind sailed the sloops and schooners, their rails well down, their wet decks gleaming. The owners, boys and grown men, raced around the cement shores, hoping to arrive at the other side in time to keep the boats from bumping. Some of the toy boats were not as small as you might think, for when you got close to them, you found that their mainmast was taller than a man's head, and they were beautifully made, with everything shipshape and ready for sea. To Stuart, they seemed enormous, and he hoped he would be able to get aboard one of them and sail away to the far corners of the pond. He was an adventurous little fellow and loved the feel of the breeze in his face and the cry of the gulls overhead and the heave of the great swell under him. As he sat cross-legged on the wall that surrounds the pond, gazing out at the ships through his spyglass, Stuart noticed one boat that seemed to him finer and prouder than any. Her name was Wasp. She was a big black schooner flying the American flag. She had a clipper bow, and on her foredeck was mounted a 3-inch cannon. "She's the ship for me," thought Stuart. And the next time she sailed in, he ran over to where she was being turned around. "Excuse me, sir," said Stuart to the man who was turning her, "but are you the owner of the schooner Wasp?" "I am," replied the man, surprised to be addressed by a mouse in a sailor suit. "I'm looking for a berth in a good ship," continued Stuart. That means he's looking for a ship to be able to sail. "And I thought perhaps you might sign me on. I'm strong and I'm quick." The man looked sharply at him. He couldn't help admiring the trim appearance and bold manner of this diminutive, tiny, seafaring character. "Well," he said at length, pointing the prow of the Wasp out toward the center of the pond, "I'll tell you what I'll do with you. You see that big racing sloop out there?" "I do," said Stuart. "That's the Lillian B. Wamrath," said the man, "and I despise her with all my heart." "Then so do I," cried Stuart loyally. "I despise her because she's always bumping into my boat," continued the man, "and because her owner doesn't understand sailing and hardly knows a squall from a squid." "Or a jib from a jibe," cried Stuart. "Or a luff from a leech," bellowed the man. "Or a deck from a dock," screamed Stuart. "Or a mast from a mist," yelled the man. But hold on now, no more of this. I'll tell you what we'll do. The Lily and Bee Warmrath has always been able to beat the Wasp sailing, but I believe that if my schooner were properly handled, it would be a different story. Nobody knows how I suffer standing here on shore, helpless, watching the Wasp blunder along when all she needs is a steady hand on her helm. So, my young friend, I'll let you sail the Wasp across the pond and back, and if you can beat that detestable sloop, I'll give you a regular job. Aye, aye, sir, said Stuart, swinging himself aboard the schooner and taking his place at the wheel. Ready about! One moment, said the man. Do you mind telling me how you propose to beat the other boat? I intend to crack on more sail, said Stuart. Not in my boat, thank you, replied the man quickly. I don't want you capsizing in a squall. Well then, said Stuart, I'll catch the sloop brought on and rake her with fire from my forward gun. Foul means, said the man. I want this to be a boat race, not a naval engagement. Well then, said Stuart cheerfully, I'll sail the Wasp straight and true and let the Lily and Bee Warmrath go yawning all over the pond. Bravo! Cried the man, and good luck go with you. And so saying, he let go of the Wasp's prow. A puff of air belied out the schooner's headsails, and she paid on, and filled away on the port tack, heeling gracefully over to the breeze, while Stuart twirled her wheel and braced himself against a deck cleat. By the by, yelled the man, you haven't told me your name. Name is Stuart Little, cried Stuart at the top of his lungs. I'm the second son of Frederick C. Little of this city. Bon voyage, Stuart, hollered his friend. Take care of yourself and bring the Wasp home safe. That I will, shouted Stuart, and he was so proud and happy he let go of the wheel for a second and did a little dance on the sloping deck, never noticing how narrowly he escaped hitting a tramp steamer that was drifting in his path, with her engines disabled and her decks awash. So that is the end of chapter 6, which seems like a good place to stop today. That was a little bit of a longer chapter. If you have any questions about what we read, I know a lot of sailing terms in that chapter. You can leave them in the comments below. You can also write some predictions that you have of what's going to happen next, because chapter 7 is called the Sailboat Race. So do we know, is Stuart going to be able to beat the boat? What's he going to do out on the water? And there's also, we've read this much, and there's still this chunk left. So there's a lot more to go. What do you think might happen? Leave it in the comments below. Also, you can subscribe so that you'll know exactly when I start posting the chapter for the next day. So I miss you all terribly. Hope you're enjoying your time with your families, though, and I can't wait to see you all soon.